Welcome to this evening's meeting of the Environment Committee. Just the standard things to start with. This is a public meeting and members of the public and press are permitted to report on proceedings. Reporting includes filming, photographing, making an audio recording and providing commentary on proceedings. Please note that this meeting is recorded and streamed live. These recordings are published on the relevant meeting page on the Council's website. By choosing to attend this public meeting, you are deemed to have given consent to being filmed or recorded and for any footage to be broadcast or published. If the alarm sounds, the premises must be evacuated immediately. Do not spend time collecting personal belongings. All emergency escape routes are clearly signed. Once you have left the building, the assembly point is in the High Street opposite the Guildhall. Members and other speakers are reminded to use their microphone when speaking, which would have been useful if I'd have realised that when we started. So thank you very much, everyone. And we're going to start with an appointment of any substitutes.
Yes, Chair, we have Councillor Alcott for Councillor Rudge. Thank you.
Thank you. And do we have any declarations of interest? No, so no declarations of interest. Looking, and there's no public participation this time, although we are very lucky to have had quite a considerable amount of public participation at our last meeting. Okay, in that case, I'm going to move on to the minutes. I've scrolled down to find them. In terms of the public participation, I'd like to confirm that written answers have been given to all the four people, I think it was, that came to the meeting. We're also going to have an update about one of them, under matters arising, about one of the items, which I'm going to just ask David to do. If I can ask you to do that now, David.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. The Offerton Lane balancing ponds have come up at committee a few times over the last few committees. Something that we'd normally pick up with as a ward issue, and I've been in touch with the ward members and given them an update. But talking to the chair, we thought it'd be useful for members of this committee just to say where we are. So we've commissioned through the South Worcestershire Land Drainage Partnership initially, which is a shared service we have with Wychavon, an investigation into the current condition of the drainage there as to how that's operating and the siphon that takes the water underneath the canal. We're going to follow that up with some more work looking at the biodiversity value and then the amenity value of the area. And the intention is we'll be able to prepare an options appraisal with a range of options of works that could be done with costs and benefits, pros and cons of those. Once we've done that, then that'll be something that the council consider take forward. So that sort of, I think, brings you up to date where we are moving that forward. The first visit was last week, sorry, to look at the drainage. Thank you.
Thank you, David. I just felt that because that has been an issue that's come up so many times at committee and we had such a debate about it last time, it was useful to make sure that, having made sure the ward members were aware first, that everybody else was also in the loop. In terms of the minutes, I'm not going to go through page by page, but I have got two people who've indicated that they've got something they want to say, so I'm going to go to Councillor Udall and then Councillor Cross.
Just a brief question, Chair. A couple of meetings ago, we asked for the Environment Agency to come and before us to give us a presentation and allow us to ask them some questions. I was told that this was going to be this meeting. Obviously, they're not here. Have you got any update on that, please?
I can pick that up, Madam Chair. Yeah, due to family circumstances, the Officer for the Environment Agency wasn't able to make this meeting, but we're scheduling for the June committee. The topic was water quality in Worcester's watercourses.
Thank you, Councillor Cross.
Thank you, Chair. My question actually related to the comment or the update we just received. Just wondering when this sort of options report or proposal might be coming forward. Any indication, please?
Some of that will be dependent on what's found and how much work's required in order to produce that. But I would say towards June, I would look to have something together.
So those are the sort of matters arising. Has anybody else got any other matters arising on the minutes or any corrections or anything they would like to raise before we sign those off as a true record? I'm taking silence as assent, and I'd like to say thank you to the team who write the minutes. It's a challenging job. Okay, that brings us on to the next item, which is the performance scorecard. And I'm assuming that, Lloyd, you're going to be covering that.
Thank you, Chair. Members, this is the proposed committee scorecard for 25-26, so I don't intend to spend too long on it. If we just go over the projects and activities first of all, and just focusing on those projects that we are intending to remove from the scorecard for next year, just to reassure members, there's a list of projects there towards the top of the page. The reason for their removal is either that they are completed in totality or they are due to be completed very shortly. So that's the reason why they aren't being carried forward into next year's scorecard. We intend to continue with the four projects at the top of the page in Appendix 1, so protection of a biodiversity strategy, delivery of the ash dieback strategy and action plan, and accordingly delivery of the environmental sustainability strategy and action plan as well. And we're also including undertaking of a heat network study. The new projects for next year are delivery of the air quality action plan. So last year we developed it and got it published and approved. This year we want to move into delivery and give you as members oversight of that. Equally, as we move towards implementation of a food waste service, we also believe that's a key project for us and needs to be on the scorecard. Recycling rates and improving recycling, I know, is key to members sat around this table. So that very specific project around delivering some proactive engagement activity around recycling, we're also proposing to include. And then the last one around proposed new projects is investigating the use of HVO fuel within the council's fleet. Given the challenges that still exist around the cost of electric vehicles and the operability, we can't just not do anything, and therefore it's important to us that we investigate the use of HVO fuel as an alternative in the interim period. And then just in terms of performance indicators, Chair, the only thing I would mention is that the majority of indicators that we are looking to carry on forward to next year. The changes that we want to simplify how we are reporting on recycling and residual waste. So members will remember that we had 4 or 5 indicators around that area in previous years. What we want to do is carry over the off-log metrics, of which there are 3, and really, in terms of performance, they're the most important ones. How much waste are we recycling? How contaminated is our recycling? And how much waste are we failing to recycle? So those 3 off-log metrics cover that. So even though off-log has gone away, we will take forward those metrics into next year. So I'll stop there, Chair. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. I'm going to start and abuse Chair's prerogative and ask a question about one of them, because there is one which links to an item that's later on in the agenda. And I don't know whether... So the public bin investment programme, I know the public bin investment programme is complete, and I can understand therefore why that it would be removed. However, I do wonder whether we need, and we'll pick this up under the final item, whether there is a need for the review of that. I know that myself as an elected member and a number of other elected members are picking up a lot of complaints about public bins. I know we've got an action around addressing overflowing bins, but I'm also getting complaints about are they in the right places. And I know there was a huge consultation, and we can pick this up later on in the agenda, but it's whether now that is actually complete, whether there is any need to just to do a sort of evaluation of that and check that we really do have the areas covered.
I've got it.
If you want to just respond to that thing about bins,
Yeah.
and then I'll ask whether people whether they've got any other comments on the scorecard in general.
I think all I was going to say, Chair, was that I think from memory the project has been running for 2.5 years, isn't it? And we as officers have had some feedback around location of bins as well. What I was going to commit to was that we could look for perhaps July committee to bring a wrap-up report on the project that would give members an opportunity to debate the item fuller.
And on that, if we have an item, a way of a wrap-up and an evaluation, I think that I'm then quite happy to sign this off as it being formally removed. But I think we do need that wrap-up review. We do need that evaluation of, and I would like members to have the opportunity to comment whether there are any particular, and looking at the data as well, whether there are particular problem hotspots. I know I get a lot of complaints about areas, and I can pass those on. Clearly, there's a cost implication. We can't fund everyone's request for a bin, but we need to make sure that now that is embedded, that they are in the right places. Okay, that's me on my hobby horse finished for this item. Does anybody else have any comments they want to make about the committee scorecard? It's just me pointing at Councillor Lewin.
That's right. I'll make one. It's okay. Yeah, I really agree with the focus on those off-log metrics. Those are the important things. And obviously they're things that carry through to when we are measured by outside bodies on our performance still. Even if they're not going to be off-log, they are by other bodies. So they're important. And obviously getting the kilograms per household of waste get down would be really great. But one thing that I wanted to look at, and I was thinking about this earlier, is that obviously we know we've got the electric crematours coming to the crematorium, and we've got a target of 60% satisfaction. With the disruption that we're going to have, I think if we get 60%, I think that's going to be amazing. Hopefully it will be very smooth and everything will run well. I welcome the project as well. Obviously it doesn't sit under this committee now, but obviously it's on our scorecard. So it's whether we get some kind of feedback into how that project's going to our committee if the satisfaction score is impacted, I suppose. That's what I'm thinking. Thank you.
Yeah, Chair, you know, it's a project that's been overseen by Policy and Resources Committee, but I think as we move into what we're calling interim arrangements during the closure period, we'll make sure there's a briefing for all members, whether that be written or verbal. So whether you're on this committee or another committee, we'll make sure members have all got that sort of baseline of information. And if there were any service impacts, then we would report them back to this committee, because even though the capital project sits with P&R, the running of the service sits with this committee constitutionally.
Councillor Cooper.
Thank you very much, Chair. I was wondering about the district heat network. I know that lots of offices and businesses are wanting to move off gas. I wondered if there would be an interim report before next March, please.
Through you, Chair. We haven't planned an interim report, so honest answer to the question at the moment. We're at quite a critical stage of the report, I think, looking at one of the major heat users and whether they will be part of the network and can be part of the network. I think I'd probably like to reserve judgment in answering that, but certainly when we have something to bring to committee, and at the moment we're still in that preparation stage, when we have something to bring to committee, we certainly can talk to Chair and Vice about doing that.
I think Councillor Cooper, maybe Karen and I will make a commitment to ask them on a regular basis, and therefore we can grill officers in our regular briefings and make sure that if there is anything substantive that it is shared with all members via committee report, so that it's not just being shared with us, it is with everyone else. Councillor Cross.
Thank you. That heat network strategy, is that in line with and the same as what county would be working on within Worcester City as well, given as that within Worcestershire?
We've commissioned a very specific piece of work, Councillor, which is about the feasibility of a heat network for Worcester, primarily the city centre area, founded on taking heat from the River Severn and creating a heat network around that. So we've also done a small piece of work as part of that, which the funder asked to do, looking at heat network zones. So that might be what you're referring to, the broader piece of work about heat network zones, which would be in various areas. Understand the planning legislation sort of requires those to be considered for new developments if there is a heat network zone existing for connection to. More than happy to have a conversation outside the meeting in detail. And potentially we could do a briefing note to members which might answer Councillor Cooper's question rather than coming back with a full committee report. It sounds like a short briefing note might be useful.
I think we'd welcome that, and trying to make sure that we don't have just pure information items on the committee. So just as, but making sure that committee members and members more widely are up to speed with what's happening. Councillor Lewin.
Yes, apologies, Chair. I had another thing to say, actually. I know that we're removing the Green Homes Grant Hug-2 scheme, and there's going to be another scheme which will be delivered on our behalf by county. I'm just wondering where the measurements for that scheme, which committee it will go to, so we can see how county are doing and whether we'll get any feedback on you know, how many houses they're sorting out in the city, you know, that kind of thing. Thank you.
Chair, we're not intending to report that back through any committee, but again, if members are particularly interested in that, we can ask the team to provide quarterly updates to all members on progress with the scheme. That's not a problem.
Okay, thank you. So we are asked to consider this. I think we've considered it. Are we being asked to approve this? I'm assuming by default we are being asked to approve it. Is everyone happy to sign off the proposed committee scorecard for next year? If you just raise your hands. Yeah, looks like it's unanimous. So thank you. We will look forward to moving forward with another year of a nice comprehensive scorecard. Next item is simpler recycling, particularly about the food waste collections, and I assume this is you again, Lloyd.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, members will recall the paper in January was an update paper on this subject, and in particular it was focusing on procurement of our new food waste vehicles that we need for the service. This report now moves on to food caddies and bins, and how that will support the service, and more importantly how it will be funded. So since January, officers have spent a considerable amount of time going through relevant procurement frameworks that would allow us to purchase food caddies and bins, and that has given us a clear indication of the costs, particularly when you compare them to the capital grant allocation that we had from DEFRA. We've also undertaken some soft market testing to better understand prices, but also lead-in times as well, and storage options. As we've reported before, the domestic food waste service will be provided to every single household within the city. So currently that number is 47,698. And so each house will be given an internal food caddy, a 7-litre food caddy. In order to cover all households and provide us with 5% of spares, we'll purchase just short of 50,500. Most households will then be provided with a larger food caddy for external use, a 23-litre food caddy. So we intend to purchase just over 44,000 of those. That includes 10% of spares rather than the 5%, because they will be out in all weather, and they're also at risk of being stolen or damaged rather than an internal caddy. The reason for the difference in numbers is that within the city there are many residential buildings that serve multiple households, so having both types of caddy just wouldn't work for them, particularly the external caddy. For each household within a communal setting, they'll benefit from an internal caddy, the smaller caddy, but rather than external caddy, they'll then be provided with a wheeled communal bin, and on average one of those bins will service 6 to 7 households. So we'll need a total of 1,100 communal wheeled bins, and again there's 10% of spares provision there because they'll be outside and open to the elements. And just to differentiate between a communal food bin and a communal waste or recycling bin, those bins will be black, but we'll give them a different colour lid, so it makes it easier for residents. The other thing which we touched on before, but we've never gone into too much detail on it, is around food caddy liners. So we want to do everything we possibly can to encourage residents within that first 6-month period to get involved with the new service. So we have costed and we have included for 6 months worth of liners for each and every resident. And past that point, it's then over to residents to purchase their own liners if they wish to. So we'll be purchasing just over 50,000 rolls of liners as well. So paragraph 2.18 sets out the costs of food caddies, bins and the liners, and that comes to just over £300,000, £306,226. And I'll cover off the shortfall and how we'll fund that in a moment. We committed to coming back and updating on other funding updates. So paragraph 2.20 sets out where we were at the time of writing this report. I'm pleased to announce that we've now had notification of our transitional funding. So we've had £300,000 worth of revenue funding for transitional work, and we'll report back at a later date around the ongoing revenue funding. I won't cover off food waste vehicle procurement, that's just a couple of paragraphs. The one thing to say around extended producer responsibility funding, we've reported to members that the £950,000 we had for that has gone into a service transformation reserve. But we just need to keep our eye on the new mandatory requirement to separate paper and card collections. We do need to keep some of that back, so I'll keep reminding members of the need to just to hold some of that in abeyance when we're taking decisions on spend throughout the course of the year as a council. Because if we can't obtain an exemption not to undertake those collections, we will have to fund that ourselves. Government have given us no new money for that separate collection. So we are hopeful we will get an exemption, but we just need to keep that in mind. And either in June or July, a further report will be brought around asking this committee to sign off an application for an exemption around separate paper and card collections. So to come back to the substantive element of this report, Chair, the cost of the food caddies, the bins and the liners, as I say, the total cost of that is £306,000. We've got £162,000 worth of capital grant that's left, which then leaves a shortfall. And what we'll look to do is to utilise £147,000 from the service transformation reserve, which is where the extended producer responsibility funding has gone, to make up the balance. Funding it in this way has no revenue pressure, so there's no borrowing costs on the council. And again, just a reminder, we're not at a point yet of being able to seek any decision around what the ongoing revenue cost of this is. We're still in the point of having to purchase things that will be able to deliver the service, but we're not at the point of being able to set out any costs around staff. So then up to the recommendations, I won't go through 1.1 or 1.4 because they're noting recommendations, but committee are asked tonight to recommend to Policy and Resources Committee the capital expenditure as set out in the report, and then subject to approval by P&R to approve the commencement of the procurement exercise around caddies, bins and liners, and that would be delegated to myself in line with, in consultation with Chair and Vice Chair of this committee. So happy to stop there, Chair, take any questions.
Thank you. At the moment, I've got 3 people who've indicated that they want to speak. Councillor Udall, Councillor Scott and Councillor Cross. Councillor Alcott, so anyone else can then indicate, but just so people know that I've... So we'll start with Councillor Udall.
Thank you, Chair. And I don't want to have my comments interpreted as any form of negativity, because I do like and support the scheme which is being suggested. But more and more I hear about what's being proposed, the more and more worried I'm going to get, especially about potential resistance from the public to what is being proposed. I'm already picking up a number of people telling me that they don't want another bin, they have no intention of using it. So I have got a bit of a concern that we're handing out thousands of bins across the city to people who will simply not be using them. So there's a number of questions which come from that. Can we make it voluntary? Do we have to actually issue a bin to every household? Can people opt out if they choose to do so? After all, people are living very busy, hectic lives. They don't need any more stress of having another bin imposed upon them and the other work which takes with it. So, and what kind of marketing activity other than free bin liners are we going to do to actually encourage people to participate? I have got a concern about 6 months supply of bin liners, because I can already foresee the uproar when now 6 months are up and people will be asking the council for a renewal of their liners, and which we're not going to provide them with. So there is a number of issues which could emerge, which I'm fearing a backlash against. As I said, I'm already hearing people saying they don't want to be part of this. So, you know, is there, what mechanisms have we got to make sure that this is an optional scheme? Is it legal or is it just guidance at this stage?
There is no mechanism to make it optional. It's a legal requirement for the council to provide every household with a food waste service. So it's not our intention to make this an opt-in, opt-out scheme, or to only focus it on those areas where residents recycle more. This will be provided to everybody. There are some really important reasons for why we as a council need to do everything we can to encourage residents to take part in this. Number one, our recycling rates are poor. And if we get more people recycling food waste, then we believe our recycling rates will shoot up somewhere between 5 and 10%, probably nearer 5 than 10. So there's a bit of a reputational reason for it. Secondly, as of this year, our extended producer responsibility funding grant will be premised on how much waste we are recycling. So there's also a financial incentive for us to be ensuring that as many people as possible are taking up the service. The transitional resource funding I've just mentioned, some of that, as much as we want to use it for, needs to be used on encouraging uptake. So whether it be communication, whether it be traditional communication, whether it's knocking doors, whether it's a recycling campaign, that will be the key for us, Councillor Udall, in terms of getting the message out there as to why this is a good thing.
Fine, that's good news. A thought which comes to my mind is I hope we're not going to use any form of compulsion or fining system to people who are not participating. As I said, people lead busy, hectic lives, and I know people are already stressed with trying to work out which bin they have to put out when. So if people do not wish to participate, there will be hopefully no compulsion upon them to do so, and we're still effectively giving bins away which they may be using for other purposes.
The only legal requirement falls on us to provide the service. There's no legal requirement on householder to use the service.
Thank you. We're going to go to Councillor Scott next.
Thank you. Just on that last point about compulsion to it, there will be many people, and I believe the chair is household is one of them, who doesn't create food waste. And if you don't put your food waste bin out, there won't be any problem with doing that. We assume it be taken, dealt with elsewhere or not created, which of course is the ideal situation. What my real concern is twofold. First of all, we've got quite a big change coming to our waste collection service, and even bigger if we go separate card and paper, which I'll come on to in a moment. And nowhere in the report do I see how we are going to disseminate this information to our residents, other than the delivery of these bins. I would say that any change, irrespective of any change, we definitely need to be doing more information to our residents to let them know exactly what should go in which bin, because many residents say they still don't know, and our contamination rates of our recyclables show that they're so high because people put the wrong stuff in the green bins at the moment. So my first question is then about how we're going to market this, how we're going to sell it, and how we're going to implement that change. The second one is, I note that the paper and waste collection, and incidentally, I have lived 3 years in a borough which had exactly these waste streams, and I didn't hear of any complaints. The paper and waste collection service was delivered through open weave plastic sacks, which clearly weren't appropriate to put other things in, and I never saw any contamination of those. You would see contamination of the green bins, which were different colour in there, where they did a separate glass and a separate plastic collection, separate glass from Canon plastics collection. So it was actually 4 streams, and we're only proposing at the moment, no, it's 5 streams, we're only proposing 4 when we implement food, paper, eventually, other recyclables, and black bins, general waste. So up and down the country, these separated waste streams are already happening. And there are ways of doing it without creating the additional problems which both Richard has identified and are listed under 2.28. So my second question then is why, when paper and waste is required by law to be introduced before food waste, which of the reasons under 2.28 are we going to be citing as our likely, what's your feeling, which are the likely reasons that we're going to be given for seeking an exemption. And I believe we should be doing all we can to overcome those and deliver a separate paper and waste collection service at the same time as we introduce a new food waste collection. That would be my preference. I'd like to know exactly why we aren't doing that, please.
Did you get all those questions?
I'll try my very best. The first point around marketing the food waste service, it's far too early for that. And we'll bring more detail on that back to committee in due course.
All right, okay, that's the answer. So you've come back with it, yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then in terms of the sort of general recycling messages, Councillor Scott, I would agree with you. And obviously, as part of the scorecard, the specific project around, you know, increasing recycling, doing some engaging work, I would hope we can cover off with that project as well. Just in terms of the paper and card collections, it's a legal duty for councils to deliver that unless they are able to obtain a TEEP exemption. Our TEEP exemption application will be based on the fact that for us to do that, we would need a new fleet of vehicles. So at the moment, our refuse collection vehicles are not split back. Everything goes into the back of a refuse collection vehicle, and we would need to separate paper and card out. Our fleet can't do that at the moment. So the basis of our application will be cost, which is one of the factors when you work through a TEEP exemption. So again, more detail will be provided on that in June or July when we bring that report back to committee and seek your approval to submit that application.
Thank you. Well done on the number of questions that were wrapped up in that. We're going to go to Councillor Cross next.
Thank you. Two questions. One is just a correction of a typo in the report. Paragraph 2.24 should say late 2024, not late 2025, I believe, unless I'm puzzled. So main point, as the non-compostable liners mentioned within 2.17, are there any restrictions within the anaerobic digester process, etc., that we're aware of what kind of liner could or could not be used? Are there any things we need to be aware of in that? Thank you.
I won't respond to question to point one, Chair. I'll just check back on that in a later time. In terms of Councillor Scott's second point, some anaerobic digestion plants do specify the sort of type of liner they will take. The liner that the facility that we are currently working with and taking food waste to, there is no stipulation. We're very relaxed about that.
Thank you. We're going to go to Councillor Alcott next.
Chair, thank you. Obviously, there's the capital and then once it's running the revenue cost, but with the capital cost, essentially, have we been underfunded by government and are other councils in the same situation? Is that...
Yes, Chair. The capital allocation from DEFRA has not met the total capital that we will be spending on trucks, bins, caddies and liners. That's not a unique situation. Many councils up and down the country are in the same boat.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak to this item? Councillor Lewin.
Thank you, Chair. I just think it's worthwhile saying how important food waste collection is, and also that we have a positive householder perception of food waste recycling, and that of Worcester doing it, we're not the first city in the country doing it. We are benefiting from other authorities having done this type of collection for a long time, and that's what officers have been able to look at, those studies. And I think really what we need from members is lots of support in the future for the messaging that needs to go out, but also, you know, so we can tackle any kind of issues that people are having and address them and resolve them. I'm really pleased that we've got to this stage, and thank the officers.
Thank you. I take it, Councillor Lewin, you're not looking for a response to that. So, Councillor Sobczak.
Thank you, Chair. With local government reorganisation now on our minds, may I ask how the Council is considering alignment of this proposed new service with other similar plans in our neighbouring councils?
So at the start of the process, there was a concerted effort actually to think about a county-wide food waste service, but for a variety of reasons, it wasn't practical. I won't go through the reasons now; they're probably too long and too detailed to go through. But it was given a real good go. And I think where we are just in terms of timescales, you know, we are going to be late in terms of delivery of our service. That will come far ahead of any move to us or to any new unitary councils coming into force. So it's important for us that we as a council have a legally compliant service by the autumn of 2026, by which time a new unitary organisation or even a skeleton organisation won't be in place. So my concern is that, you know, we aren't being tackled by government for not having that service in place and failing our residents.
It's also a discussion that we've had extensively at chairs and vice chairs briefings, and I think the consensus that we had in those meetings were that we as Worcester City are a very forward-looking council. We want to bring the rest of Worcestershire, however it is, whether it's South Worcestershire or Worcestershire, along with us with our forward-thinking way about how we're tackling these environmental issues, and hopefully we can actually bring others with us in whatever merged system we end up with, rather than we strive for the best rather than go for the lowest possible denominator, and as long as it's a legal requirement. Does anybody else have anything they want to comment on or ask questions about on this report? I'm not seeing anything, so in that case, we've noted the items for noting. I'm going to take that as read. We need to agree, is everybody happy to make this recommendation to the Policy and Resources Committee for a capital expenditure of the £310,000 for the procurement of food caddies and wheels bins and the sources of that? So those in favour, if you could just all raise your hand. That is unanimous. And also then item 1.3, subject to approval of this recommendation, which we've just approved, are you happy to approve the commencement of a procurement and exercise and to delegate that to the Corporate Director, Operations, Homes and Communities, i.e. Lloyd, in consultation with the Chair and Vice Chair, i.e. Karen and myself? Is everybody happy with that? Again, if you can raise your hand so we've got clarity. Again, I think that's unanimous. Thank you. So I think it is a case of Worcester is leading the way. And that brings us on to item 7, which is UK 100 membership. So we give Lloyd a very brief reprieve, and I presume, Ruth, we're going to you.
Thank you, Chair. So following the motion to Council last September, officers have investigated the requirements to join the membership of the UK 100 network. This paper asks committee to approve the Council becoming a member of that network as ally members. To become a member, it requires the Council to sign the pledge. If I can draw your attention to that in paragraph 4.1 of this report. As you'll see, and as is explained in the following paragraphs, the pledge is in line with the commitments that we've already made through our environmental sustainability strategy. So we have already committed to the ambitious net zero targets, which are actually ours are more ambitious than are set out in the pledge. We already report our carbon emissions, and we are not currently proposing any use of offsets, with our focus being on carbon reduction rather than carbon offsetting. There are a number of benefits of joining the UK 100 network. These are outlined in paragraphs 4.4 onwards. As is outlined, the Council will benefit from a variety of resources and learning opportunities that will be made available to us, as well as the advocacy work that's undertaken by this network of leaders. There is a subscription option. This is outlined in 5.2. The proposal that we've put to you is to join as ally members, which is free membership. There is a subscription option, and this has additional sort of benefits. However, as we are already members as a council of a number of different similar organisations or organisations that give us similar benefits, including Sustainability West Midlands and the Association of Local Government Ecologists, joining as paid members of the UK 100 network does not appear to be cost effective for us. There are implications simply around that this is in line with our, as we've said, existing environmental sustainability strategy, and there's no financial implication with the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We're going to go to Councillor Cooper first.
Thank you very much, Chair. I really welcome this. I think it shows leadership from the City Council. I'm pleased that we're doing things like Earth Hour, which is coming up on the 22nd of March. I'd like to take this opportunity to remind the leadership of this committee that we are a plastic-free city and that we don't use single-use plastic. Thank you.
Duly noted. Councillor Lewin.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to officers for this paper. And actually, you know, the full council was only September, so it's also very prompt, so thank you. This is a motion that I led, I think. Really, I just saw it as an opportunity for us to benefit from, you know, cross communication with other councils. We're all in the same boat, all trying to achieve a very difficult target, I would say, but we can benefit from the knowledge from other people. You know, we are further ahead than other councils in some areas, we are behind in others. So the research and the advocacy that's within it, I think should be really useful. And the opportunity is also for members of the Environment Committee to go and look at things and up their knowledge as well. I think it would also be useful. Thank you.
I don't see any other hands of anybody else looking to speak, so I'm going to move us straight to just ask people. The recommendation is that the council approves, that the committee approves the council becoming a member of the UK 100 network. Again, just for clarity, if people are in favour, it would be useful if you could raise your hand so we can see people are happy. That's fine. We've got, again, totally unanimous, and also thank you to Councillor Lewin for bringing this forward in the first place to Council. Which moves us on to the final item, which is the street scene report, which I believe that Gareth is going to talk about.
Thank you, Chair. So this is an update report on the street scene service. We ask that committee just note the contents of this report. This report provides an update on the council's street scene work and its historical development. The Clean Streets initiative was part of a transformation programme covering street cleansing, grounds maintenance, trees and play areas. It dates back to previous reports in 2017 and 2018, which outline key service improvements, including the establishment of a member task and finish group and trials of smart bins. The trials help define the service vision, which is making Worcester City tidy, colourful and safe. The street scene standards have been developed to define excellent, acceptable, poor and unacceptable street conditions, which is demonstrated in the report in the appendices. These standards were refined through trials and used to monitor service quality. Key performance indicators are used to track performance and are reported quarterly. To measure quality, there are surveys which assess street scene conditions, and these are now conducted by internal staff members instead of volunteers, which is a historical way that we used to do them. So effectively, independent officers will perform quality assurance checks in other wards. Response times for the service requests and complaints are monitored via a back office reporting system called CARS, which is a customer account reporting system, and we call it Report It, so customers and members can clearly ask for what they want to be cleaned or maintained by this system, and it's audited. So critical requests are handled within a day, and while other requests which we don't consider critical will be dealt with as soon as, if the resources allow. To measure satisfaction, resident satisfaction surveys are done annually through and are presented quarterly, in quarter 3 of the performance reports. Worcester is divided into 5 zones for street cleansing and grounds maintenance. There's maps demonstrating this at the back of the report also. So the effect to this to remain efficiency, service consistency and responsiveness. So each area is divided up into zones to specifically give place teams an area to work. So effectively, the response times are quicker. In addition to this, the arterial routes are also cleaned on a biannually basis, which requires road closures, and this is effectively London Road and the A449. In addition to this, we've got the city centre cleansing team. Including this, we've got operatives that work 7 days a week, and we've got a hit squad as well, which is a team which specifically goes out to deal with difficult things like graffiti, fly tipping, urgent cleansing needs, and they use specialist equipment such as jet washers and the like. So to focus on 25-26, we'll be reviewing place team operations to optimise efficiency, improving litter bin emptying to reduce complaints, enhancing grass cutting standards, partnering with registered social landlords to combat fly tipping, collaborating with Warndon Parish Council on local environmental initiatives, and continue to the Riverside flood clear-up trial as well. We'll also be looking at enhancing cleanliness in pedestrianised areas, particularly around street furniture, and increasing public satisfaction scores in the annual survey. We'll continue ongoing monitoring and ensure data is recorded correctly and to aid us in the future. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I think this is a really important report because it talks about a lot of what's happened historically, and I think very few, I can only think of perhaps one member of the committee who was actually here at that time. And so it's really important that we get to understand the background to where we've come from and what's here. This is a report for noting, but Gareth has just talked through those things that are the priorities for 2025 and 26, and I think I'd want to draw your attention particularly to those, and to also give you the opportunity to say, are the things that you particularly think need to be considered for that. And this is where I come back to my hobby horse from earlier, abusing my right to the fact that I'm in the chair and I get to speak first at that. And that is, I really welcome the bit about overflowing bin locations, but I do want to make sure that we're also reviewing whether there are places where they're in the right place. But we've covered that off already, so I'm going to just state that and move on. We're going to go to Councillor Cross first and then Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Chair. I like the place system where one's got a group who become familiar with a particular area. I think that works nicely. I remember from the days on Warndon Parish Council about how consistency being desired, and I think that's being achieved. So we have a good working relationship with our local team, and I'd like to also commend our City Council's quick response to urgent issues such as broken glass on roads. There was some again this evening that I reported on a highway, and that's really encouraging when issues are dealt with promptly. So thank you. There were some proposals relating to public street bins that we provided. We'll look forward to these being implemented, and I guess we're going to hear a date in due course. But that would be nice, just so that our rapid response ties in with our regular collection for overflowing public street bins, for example, so we don't get 2 teams attending. Thank you.
I think you've just confirmed the need for a dedicated report on bins at the next meeting. Councillor Cooper.
Thank you very much, Chair. I just want to praise the HIT team and the street scene team. I am constantly amazed at how efficient they are. The other day I reported something in my street, into a meeting, came back and it was gone. I'm just astounded by the level of service, and I have raised that with managers. I understand that that's just particularly exceptional, and that's not, we shouldn't expect things to be happening within hours. But every time I've reported something, it's been within the date, and I just wanted to publicly thank the team because I think they're amazing.
Thank you. I take it you don't want to respond to that, other than
Thank you.
Councillor Udall.
Yes, I do wonder whether we need to actually hand out dustpan and brush to all members so we can actually follow Councillor Cross's example. That might be something for us to consider in the future. I want to place on record also my support and appreciation of the place system, and it's working very well. It was trialled first in St John's, and that's where it shone brightly in the first few years, and that's worked successfully. And I'm confident, we all know problems happen, bins are missed, bins occasionally are overflown, but I'm very pleased with the response rate when people do make those complaints and do report them, and it is quickly resolved. One question I have, which is not necessarily associated with this, but it's been brought to my attention by the paragraph 3.9, which is regarding the life buoys which we have. And it says here we respond within 1 day if we are aware that they're damaged or broken. How often do we actually inspect them? Often we don't know they're damaged and broken until they're needed, and I do wonder whether there is an inspection regime to make sure that they are in a safe situation and that they are not going to be problematic. I hear some rumbling going on. Am I asking the wrong question?
Chair, we can come back and confirm for sure how often they are checked. I've recently checked in on this point, and it is several times a year. So rather than me quote a number, I'll come back to members and confirm what that number is.
And I would appreciate also potentially a review of their locations and where they're used, because there has been some significant incidents in the past 12 months, and I just want to make sure that we've got them in the right place as well.
Do we have, I was going to say, do we have anybody else? But as I say that, Councillor Cooper.
Thank you very much, Chair. I wanted to raise a different point about the grassed areas. On the image that has excellent is sort of horizontal striped grass. I feel like that is a bit ambitious, and I don't feel we need striped grass. I feel like actually that's not the standard we should be aiming for. And some of these pictures, actually the acceptable is more preferable than the excellent in terms of grass and in terms of nature and rewilding and biodiversity. Thank you.
Chair, I think there's a growing acceptance that grass being mowed to within an inch of its life is no longer the norm. So I think with that sort of change in culture and without going into too much detail, the level of savings that we as a council need to make over the next couple of years, we will need to review all street scene standards, including grass cutting. So during 25-26, one of the things that the service will conduct is a review of those standards.
Can I just ask that you do make sure that's shared with members so members are aware? I think what's really useful about this report is that level of awareness of all members, and I'm hoping that members just outside of Environment Committee are also having the opportunity to look at some of these briefings and to understand this. I'm not convinced every member is fully aware of how the place team operates, and I think it's very useful to know that. Did anybody else want to? Councillor Holmes and then Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, we're all encouraged to do no mow May, but I assume that's possibly not a practical thing for a city, or do we keep the grass cutting to a minimum during that time just to encourage pollinators?
Chair, I'm not aware that we take part in no mow. I'm not aware that we sort of formally take part in it. We've obviously got areas of the city where we're committed through existing biodiversity plans for certain areas, and we're looking to develop more. But apart from that, then yeah.
Councillor Scott.
Thank you. I read the report with great interest because I do believe from knowing other places, that Worcester is very clean and tidy by comparison with an awful lot of other cities. And I know there are spots which need sorting out. I'm confident that the officers get on with it when they hear about it. So an applause from me for the work that the department does and for a clear report. Like the chair said, I wasn't fully aware how the play system works, and as a councillor which covers the city centre, I don't actually know any of the officers, but apart from you, Gareth, who've always been very helpful. So how that the play system interacts with ward members, I think, is a useful step. And how they interact with the public, there isn't much information on there's a speed of response, but it doesn't talk about how many reported cases come into the system which you need to report on. Are we confident that system is working correctly? That's the specific question. And two other very small ones. What are smart bins in the city centre? Are those the pedal bins with the crusher thing? And are they stopping working? Because it has been reported to me that some of them are barriered off or no longer working. And lastly, a plug for across street scene, more street trees in the city. I think we, with the county council, should be doing a lot more to plant trees in verges and in pavements. And we've certainly lost more trees that have been planted, in my observation, on some of the important roads in the city and residential areas.
Thank you, through Chair. So the cars, firstly, thank you. I'll report back to the teams that you've praised them. So the reporting system is a system that I think works very well. It has the ability to report from abandoned vehicles, littering, fly tipping, cleansing, and anything to do with what the customer wants. We have a good oversight through a technical team, and it's open to many officers who first thing in the morning they will come in and check this system and check their patch, if you like, to ensure it's cleansed correctly and any issues are addressed. So I'm confident that the system works. So the smart bins, it's through British Bins. The contract's been in place for a couple of years now. We have a maintenance contract. And with any contract, we sometimes have to G them up a little bit, but because they're utilised on a daily basis quite heavily and with heavily soiled items, they need consistent cleaning, which the city centre team are, I believe, on top of. But we do have issues on occasions, and any bins that do have technical issues or breakdowns, we report it directly to British Bins for them to address it as soon as they can. And with regards to the third item, I'd have to pass that on to Lloyd. Sorry.
I think Councillor Scott's feelings are noted. It's not an issue that sits solely within this service, and it also crosses a number of agencies as well. But we can certainly take that away and note it.
Just on the reported system, I think you can't tell the public and elected members often enough that system is available and that they should use it. I include myself in that. Thank you, Lloyd.
Maybe we should get out that little video that we did last summer, excruciating as it was, which was really promoting the Reported app. I've got 3 councillors that have indicated that they want to speak. Councillor Subcheck, Councillor Sadiq, and then Councillor Lewing, and I'm going to go in that order.
Thank you, Chair. I'm wondering how semi-natural areas fit in with the street scene, in fact, whether they are street scene at all. Batten Hall's very lucky that it's got several areas of natural open space through which there are shared paths. One example is the path that goes through Diggler's Fields towards the river, where it kind of leads the parkland of the fields. There is an area that has some grass on the sides, otherwise there's brambles coming in towards the path, and we've got the Cherry Orchard Nature Reserve on the other side. Now, it doesn't kind of fit the pattern in the descriptions of the assessment of being an alleyway or planted or a hedge. So I'm wondering how that might be monitored and assessed. And the reason I raise it is because in the past it has kind of looked very unkempt and untidy and overgrown for quite a considerable long period of time.
Through Chair, thank you. The area which you mentioned, which I've become familiar with from your email today, I'd have to take that back to understand the ownership of the land and that area. There is multiple landowners, as we're all aware, around the riverside, so and that park area. So I'd have to take that away and come back to you, if that's okay.
Thank you, Councillor Sadiq.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you very much for cleaning team. Yes, you're working very hard in all the year. Thank you very much. And second thing is we have a couple of issues in Fort Royal area, especially by the canal Vixes is a flight tipping, and by the Park Street is Lock Street by the canal. It's the same. Yes, still we had quite a lot of issues, and still we have it's under-taxed car park in the streets here, which one is we got a complaint in survey, and a lot of people park on payments, so we need quite informants, please. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we have done some work in the Port Royal area just recently with the deputy leader. We are aware of certain areas that need fly tip collections. We're working with platform housing in certain areas as private land. We look and the onus is upon the private landowner to remove rubbish. They're generally very good. So if we got particulars, I'll be happy to specifics. I'll be happy to take that away and deal with that. Untaxed cars, unfortunately, doesn't fall under abandoned vehicles per se. That would be under the DVLA to take responsibility for that. But we're happy to report on behalf of members and the public.
I think that really brings home that point in the 2025-26 about that working with RSLs. So much of the issues that you see that you sort of think are linked to street scene, particularly in my ward, and I'm sure this is across a lot of wards, are because they're not council lands, they're platform housing land particularly. It's interesting you have a different experience to a lot of elected members about the level of which they keep their land. I know that we've had to resort to having the council team go in and clear up some land for health and safety reasons because we can't get platform to do it. So really welcome this opportunity of working more and trying to get them to take their responsibility. We have budget constraints and we shouldn't have to go in and do their job for them. So a bit of my hobby horse there. I'm going to go to Councillor Lewin next and then Councillor Cross.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And I wanted to thank Gareth for the Action Week last week on dog fouling that you did the press release for, Zoe. I think it was just great to highlight the issue and to let residents know that we are active in dealing with the issue. And my request is that this becomes an annual event, please. I think we had a really good response from residents in our ward, particularly around Gallivant Park, where we have some, you know, it only takes one dog owner to be irresponsible to cause a problem in an area, even though the majority of owners are extremely responsible. And you know, the cleansing team coming and removing the mess, highlighting it with the pictures which are still there because it hasn't rained, it was great. And then going back to the life buoys, I did report a life buoy last week on the canal because it had come off the thing, it was on the ground, and it was put back within 24 hours. So thank you to the City Council for doing that. I think it's amazing how much we do as a City Council, actually. We do an awful lot, and that isn't our land, so it can be quite confusing for people. But what I've found is if I'm not sure and I have done report it, I've then been told or suggested where else I should go to, which is also really helpful. So thank you.
I think the campaign that Gareth organised around Dong West was very valuable. I certainly had a lot of residents in my ward who've been raising issues, and it's really positive to be able to say, and this is what the City Council's doing. It has, however, been the catalyst for raising a lot of the issues about, but we can't put it in the bin because the bins aren't there anymore. Yeah. But I think that's a very positive thing. So again, thank you to your team for being so responsive and organising this. We're going to go to Councillor Cross next, and then
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, untaxed vehicles is quite a regular item of casework. I do wonder, for those, in some local authorities are powered to do the collection, others are hanging, waiting for DVLA to respond. That waiting list can be months, and often, or sometimes, if the vehicle's then subsequently been moved, you might have a vehicle that's been on the road for months without a current vehicle excise duty paid, and then on day of an inspection, whenever the vehicle happens to come, the NVR vehicle comes around, and it's then parked on a driveway or it's gone. It seems to be a very unsatisfactory proposal when it's within the hands of the DVLA. Is there any mechanism whereby we can ask organisations such as DVLA to communicate more, to feedback to local authorities, because it seems to be that residents, if they can still be bothered, report it online, receive an acknowledgement, and then there's no, it's gone into the ether. There's nothing that comes back, and members know nothing. Officers don't know anything from a local authority, and it's really frustrating. And meanwhile, residents just say, "Oh, council's useless." It's not actually a council matter, but it's within the hands of DVLA. There's similar issues about unlicensed waste carriers, for example, or reports thereof, and Environment Agency is very underfunded, as we all know. But is there anything we can do? Do we engage in dialogue with other local authorities who are in a similar position and say, "Hey, come on, how can we push for improvement, and how can we members help in that respect as well?" Because I think that would be something that would be lovely. I think all of us would breathe a sigh of relief to find some mechanism where this weird situation improves. Thank you.
So from experience, I know the DVLA will act upon an influx of reports. I can't suggest how many reports or what their target or baseline is, but I do know that they'll wait for an insurge of reports before they'll visit a certain area, before they start acting, presumably to make it worth their while. But I'm just making assumptions. But I can't, unfortunately, I can't answer any further than that. Thank you.
I think it is the difficulty of the council always gets criticised for things that the council hasn't. The council gets criticised for things that the council can't control. I think we have to live with that. I'm going to go to Councillor Scott, and I'm hoping then we'll be able to bring this item to a close.
Thank you. While applauding the nice and clean, tidy approach to the city, there are some people who don't follow the rules. And I know you're dealing with car parking, but what about prosecutions for environmental damages, fly tipping, litter dropping, dog fouling? Whose responsibility is that in the city, and how many incidents of prosecutions have been taken place over the last, 12 months?
So that'll be my responsibility. So the biggest environmental crime that we have is littering, and that's mainly condensed in the city centre for obvious reasons. Fly tipping itself is quite a difficult crime to find the perpetrator unless it's evident at that time. So we tend to, if we find a fly tip, we'll investigate, and we will ultimately dispose of the waste, unfortunately without a conviction, and that's only due to lack of evidence. Dog fouling, again, it's hit and miss. They see officers visible in uniform, and they tend to behave themselves better than they would if an officer wasn't present. I haven't got the figures in front of me, so I wouldn't like to give you the actual figures, but I know that we do issue for dog fouling. I can think of 2 instances just off the top of my head that we have issued a fine for. Thank you. Littering, I think we've got a KPI of, I believe, 30 a month, and we regularly exceed that. It's hit and miss. You tend to find that, again, officers in uniform in the city centre, you know, you'll probably see littering more than my officers will, because obviously their presence deters the littering offence.
Sorry, just to supplement, is it only your team who is able to issue tickets, fixed penalty notices for such offences?
Yeah, so my team are multi-role civil enforcement officers who deal with parking under the Traffic Management Act and the Environmental Protection Act. So yes.
I'd just like to thank officers for this report. I know us asking for information items creates a lot of extra work for officers when there's already not enough of you to go around, but I do think this discussion has been really valuable to members, particularly relatively new members, to understand how the system works. And actually, I think what we've got from this is a lot of reassurance that the system does work, and actually the people are happy with the way that it's going. So I think generally a lot of very positives, with some things that we need to be focusing. With that, I think we've noted the item. We've raised, I think people have had the opportunity to raise the issues that they've got. So I'm going to draw that item to a close. I don't have any other items for any other business. So on that, I'm also going to draw the meeting to a close, and thank you for your time this evening.